Shani, coming to you. So in your company, where do you spend most of your time, and what's your focus? Your specific, where do you spend your time, and what's your focus in your company? You are muted, Shani.
Our focus is on changing or improving the way people interact with content today, but also in an aspect that is more artist friendly or creator friendly. That's where we are. We are unfortunately an investment fund, so we do work also focus on the financial aspect and the IRR and the return for the investors. But it's very important for us that the core community focuses on developing new things. I spend most of my time listening. And to Raul's point, I think I did an incredible job in building a team of people that are far smarter than I am, that are constantly helping me think. And that's the main thing. You talked about being the stupidest person in the room. For most of my life, I was the smartest one, or at least I thought I was the smartest one, which is something I always find in common with the entrepreneurs that I meet, right? And so for identifying where you are, where you can actually learn, being around people who can contribute to the conversation, who stop and make you think, right? That's the moment. These are the places where you want to be. And then the other aspect is where you can contribute, right? Where I spend most of my time and where I think I have the most value. I also one of my greatest sins is that I'm trying to do everything because of control issues. Because I feel like there's might be something here that I'm not seeing, or there might be something there that I should be involved in, and you're trying to coordinate everything. So letting go is a big issue, I think, for any entrepreneur. And a part of it is just putting together a process that you feel comfortable with, and it's a gradual process. It's a trusting process, and it goes back to your relationships with the people that you work with, and going back to one of the points that were mentioned here is very valuable is the relationship between the investors and the startup and the entrepreneur. It's about trust. Is whether or not I can continue to communicate with the entrepreneur after I give him the money in the same level he's trying to communicate with me now, right? Because as an investor, we know all the time that once they get the money, all of a sudden the whole dynamic shifts. So building that relationship, identifying strategic partners and investors that you want to help guide you. It's not from a controlling side. It's from like helping and guiding and giving you the 2 cents that they can. But then it goes back to people. It goes back to listening to why someone wants to be a part of the solution they want to be a part of. So how did they identify the need, right? Second aspect of the people, the relationship is what's going to happen when they fail, because they are going to fail. To Anit's point, they are going to fail. There's no doubt about it. Will they be able to make the switch in real time? Will they be able to acknowledge the challenges so they can solve some of the assets that they managed to build? So this is where I spend my time trying to analyze a little bit of doing a little bit of the risk management, and listening to the entrepreneur and seeing where we think we can truly connect and add value.
Excellent. Shani, you made some fabulous points. Let me just summarize those. Shani made a very important point, which is also being endorsed by Henry Ford. Henry Ford mentioned about hiring people who are smarter than you and then trusting them to do what you've hired them for. That's a very important point Shani has made. Shani, you've also spoken about relationships. I think a study being done in Harvard for 75 years, relationships are the most important thing that you would eventually want in your life. If you have healthy relationships, you would have a healthy and a meaningful and a long life. I think that's also a very important point you made. One follow-up question I want to ask you. Do you think techno art can run without Shani? Uh,
Yeah, that's an incredibly painful point. Oh my God, just hit the nail on the head. What are you doing?
well, I mean,
I
in other
don't
words,
think I'll
basically,
answer it from a different direction. I don't think any company can run without the involvement of the visionary. I don't think that's a possibility. I think that as much as we want to can create a scale and create a platform and create an automated process, there is a certain assets, and then we've seen it with Apple specifically. There are certain essence that the entrepreneur, that the visionary brings to it. We have to make sure that that person is aware of the fact that he might not be the best executor, right? So to create the best scale is to identify where the vision comes in and when you need to tap back in to maintain that vision, right? To keep pumping oxygen into whatever it is you're doing. But there has to be a scale. There has to be a process that can be separated from Shani Peled. So yeah, that's it's funny, but yes, that's totally. It's also on the question we ask as investors, of course. But yeah, also, as you said, it's a question we ask ourselves all the time, and whether or not this organization could run without me and Tristan. And we both actually represent very separate sides of the organization. Yeah, let's put it this way: we thrive to that point, but we also acknowledge that there is value to the fact that it will be different if it does.
Excellent. I think that's a great point
Yeah,
again.
Amit, quickly, just the visionary aspect. I think Shani made a very important point. To me, a visionary knows when to say no. That's the most important thing the vision brings.
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Which
So,
non-visionaries probably don't know when to say no, when to say yes.
absolutely,
Yeah, it's a
absolutely.
real
So,
pain point. You're right. You're absolutely right. That's an interesting, yeah, something for me. That's a takeaway for me this morning.
absolutely, absolutely, no doubt about it. So yes, and every organization is a visionary to go forward. It's a very important point.